today we have Mr. Maz Siam. He started his acting career at 50 and has since made memorable appearances on television and in films. He continued to live his dream, inspiring others with his story of resilience and reinvention. And some of the roles in TV that he was known for was on the Mindy Project, Grey's Anatomy, Scandals, NCIS LA. So he is currently an actor. So thank you very much for being here with us, Mr. Maz. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Good morning. Wow, we'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an old guy. I have what do you want to know? I'm an old guy that's got I got a daughter, I got two grandkids. I've been in sales for a very long time. Like Hung just said, I started acting later in life. I'd always wanted to be creative. I got the opportunity. Actually, I started out by writing something with a friend of mine who's a writer that I forced to help to teach me how to write. And it got and it did okay. And it got suggested I should take acting classes if I wanted to be a better writer. And I did, and I fell in love. I'm retired, semi-retired right now. I still act every chance I get, and I'm still a sales guy, so I'm doing those two things. I know that this has got about Mothers Against Addiction. I've been sober for 19 years and a couple of months now. I tried to get sober the first time in '88, and it didn't take. Finally, in 2005, I had reached what we call our bottom. I'd reached my bottom. It's a very specific time that I remember. It was a combination of things that brought it to that point. But I have created a specific moment that tells me that that's when I hit my bottom. So there's that. Yeah, and I'm not dead, so I guess I'm going to hang it out until just doing my thing until it's time to do whatever's next. Does that answer the question? Do you want to know more? What do you want to know? I don't know what you want to know. Let me know. I'm here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I'll leave it about yourself. Yeah. Thank you. Could you share how addiction has personally impacted your life or the life of someone close to you?
It's funny. I was asked these questions, and I wrote some answers down, and I just basically talked about what it was like. It's impacted my life by virtue of the fact that in sobriety, I realized that I was on the verge of killing myself. It was a slow suicide being it. I identify as an alcoholic. It was rock cocaine that brought me into the rooms. That's the way I describe it. And it was a slow suicide. I was trying to kill myself. Basically, I was trying to kill myself. At the end, I hated myself so much. All I wanted to do was die. I realized that when I talk about this bottom that I'm talking about, I realized that I had got to the point where I didn't want to be around anymore. I didn't want to be around anymore. And I should have. I realized that the only way out was to be done with it. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't have the guts to put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger. So what I would do is I would smoke as much as I could. And at the time I was going to the gym. So what I would do to try to kill myself was I would actually smoke a bunch of rock cocaine and then go to the gym and hope that my heart would explode. And it never did because I'm like a cockroach. So I kept going. And then my daughter was just shy of 21 when I got sober. So she'd watch. I don't know. I think that I hid it from her I think that I hid my addiction from her. I drank around her. When we go out to dinner, I'd have my vodka, but I think I hid my addiction from her pretty well. I probably didn't, but I think that I did. I assume she was worried. I know my brothers were terrified. I'd gotten to the point where I have always worked, but I was spending all of my money on drugs and alcohol, and I ended up needing to get, I ended up going to my brothers for help, and I know that I was terrifying them. I know that I was terrifying them. They agreed to help. They get my checks, pay my bills, and just give me a small amount of money. So at the end, it was terrible. I was an embarrassment. I was a middle-aged man who was, I don't know if successful is the right word, but I was able to buy my belts theoretically, and I was blowing it all. I was blowing it all, and I got sober, and it did change my life. I got into the idea of, I started going to these meetings, and I started working these steps, and I started not drinking and not getting high every single day, and I dealt with all the things that I had to deal with, and I mean, they talk about the idea that there's feels a lot of feeling. And I started drinking and getting high because I didn't like the way I felt. I hated the way I felt. I have my second ex-wife had an affair, if not a physical one, an emotional one, with my dead ex-best friend. And every time I tell the story, I say, I'm glad he's dead. And people laugh because it's hilarious, but it's also true because the pain of that was overwhelming at the time. It's not like it was this, I'm the only one it's ever happened to, but it sure felt like it at the time. And the drinking and the getting high, I was using it partially to try to breathe. And I remember a very specific moment that I remembered I hit my pipe so hard I couldn't stand it. And I didn't forget. And I remembered, and I realized that what I was trying to do to fix this thing wasn't working anymore. So when I stopped drinking, I stopped getting high, the things that were overwhelmingly bothering me, I had to deal with in other ways, and I learned how to do that by being sober, and how it's affected my life. It is ultimately subsequent to stopping. But as a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I now know that I have tools to help get me through the thing. I now know that I'm able to face head on the issues that are causing me to feel a certain way and to do something about them. I hope that answered the question. You're going to get that a lot from me. I hope I answered the question a lot because I can talk forever. And if I start talking too much, just cut me off. I'm just saying, okay, thank you very much. And let's go on to the next question. We can do that if you want to.
Thank you. No problem. Well, thank you for being here in the first place.
My pleasure.
What advice would you give to mothers who are struggling with their own addiction or are supporting a loved one through theirs?
Here's what I learned how to do in Alcoholics Anonymous is I understand that I can't tell anybody what to do. I can only tell you what I did. What I did is when I hit that bottom, if you're struggling with addiction, what I did when I was struggling with addiction and I hit my bottom is I started off by spending 5 days in a detox and then going to AA meetings and NA meetings and MA meetings and CA meetings, but mostly AA meetings, and getting a sponsor and working the steps and getting sober. And learning the things that I learned. My primary purpose is I assume that these are all things that you guys have heard before, but my primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So that's what I try to do. I go to meetings. I share at meetings. If something is troubling me now, if something bothers me now, what I do is I share about it. I say it out loud. I know that when I've got something inside of me that's killing me, if I keep it inside of me, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and more overwhelming. And when I share it, it's cut in half. It's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was, and it just lightens the load when I say it out loud. If it's dealing with somebody else who's got a problem, what I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous is that until I wanted to get sober, I couldn't get sober. I couldn't. I have my second ex-wife. I was in love with her. I wanted to stay with her until I died. She threw me out because I couldn't stop. She said, "You drink too much, you get eye too much. You got to cut back." I said, "Hey, I've been sober before. I know how this stuff works. I decide when I'm sober." She says, "Okay, bye," and she kicked me out. I couldn't change for somebody else. It needed to be for me. I needed to do it for me. And as much as the person that I want to do it, as much as I know what they need to do this, until they're ready is not a thing I can do about it. So what I do is I need to be in acceptance. I need to be in the fact that I can't do anything until they're ready. I've been to one Al-Anon meeting. I'm going to recommend Al-Anon, but I've gone one time. But people I know that go to Al-Anon swear by it, and helps them get through that sort of an issue. I would make that recommendation. I would make the recommendation that here's another thing. If you're struggling with somebody with addiction, what I understand, what I know is it's not your fault. It was never my fault when I deal with others. It's not, when I sponsor someone and they go out, that's not my fault. It's them. They went out because they're alcoholics. They went out because they're addicts. I cannot control that. I cannot control that. And that's sometimes difficult because as an alcoholic, I want to control stuff. I want to make things happen. I know that I have the strength of personality. I know that I have the wisdom and the intelligence I know what you got to do, man. But if you're not listening to me, there's nothing I can do, and that's the hardest part in the world, and that's so tough. But I have to do that because it'll kill me. It'll kill me. You know. So if to get sober, I started going to I started going to AA meetings. I talk to people. I live a sober life. I practice the principles to the best of my ability. I view the world through the lens of Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything that I do is done through my understanding of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I do. And when you know, like I said at the other part, is when somebody else is doing something, I'm there for them if they're ready. If I know that if somebody wants to get sober, I am there for them to do whatever I can to help them get sober once they decide they want it. Otherwise, I'm chasing them down, and it's just, I ain't going to do that. Not going to do them any good, not going to do any good for me. How's that?
Perfect. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your journey with addiction, either personally or as a supporter?
It's going to be more personal. I can't really talk about being a supporter much. I sponsor, and you heard my take on that. The reason for me that when I started drinking and getting high, I took to it is because it solves my problems. I'll use the example. My father, my late father, may he rest in peace, and I had a very, very difficult relationship. I'm a Middle Eastern man. I'm an eldest son. That carries an enormous amount of pressure when you're from the part of the world that I'm from. And my father and I got into it all the time, and I never felt like I was enough. He demeaned me and belittled me regularly, and he didn't know. I mean, I try to forgive him. I tried to forgive him. Like I said, he's been dead for a while, and I still struggle with it. But the truth of the matter is, he didn't know any better. He left the Middle East and came here when I was a year old, and he didn't have any role models he didn't have any family and friends to reach out to. This is back when making a phone call to the Middle East was not an easy thing, and there were no computers or anything like that. And he didn't know how to do it, so he struggled raising me. And I struggled as a result. So even into adulthood, when I'd go by and see him and my mom, as soon as I left, I would call my connection, and I would go score, and I'd go get high. That was what I was trying to do, I was trying to change that. And so when I got sober, all the things that were, like I said earlier, were paining me, were hurting me, were still there. So what I learned was how to do it. Now, the problem was my drugs and my alcohol were my medicine. My drugs and my alcohol were my medicine. And my medicine worked really, really well until it stopped working. And when it stopped working, I was confused. That's why, like I said, I tried to get sober in '88. It didn't take. And I started drinking and getting high until 2005. So what was that? 5 and 12, 17 years. Um, I 16 years. I didn't. I want. That was a struggle. It stopped working, and I needed some kind of medicine. So again, I go back to the idea that that the struggle is getting through the thing that bothers me. What I know is again, my answer, I talked about the idea that this teacher passed. There's a whole bunch of things that happen. I know that I live by a series of, like I said, guidelines, principles. There's the one day at a time idea. Everything, all I gotta do is get through the day for whatever the problem is. Sometimes all I gotta do is get to the next hour, the next 10 minutes, the next 5 minutes. That's an important part of it. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Whatever's going on now will change, for the better, for the worse, but it will change. There's doing the next indicated appropriate action, putting one foot in front of the other, being powerless over the results, knowing that I'm powerless over everything. All those things help me get through it. In sobriety, I had a medical issue, and it was overwhelming. It was a prostate issue that involved a catheter for 40 days and an operation, and what I did is I applied the program to it. I applied this T shall pass one day at a time. Next indicated appropriate action, and I got through it. I found myself getting through all kinds of stuff. I was like, in sobriety, I've been underemployed and unemployed more than when I was drinking and getting high. There was a period of time where it's like 3 months I wasn't able to pay my rent, and so what happened was I got through it. I worked it out with my landlord, and I got through it. I found that talking to somebody helps me get through it. I found that I can go to others and ask for help. I've got a support group around me that helps me get through things.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And how did you find the strength and resources to keep you going during the toughest moments, following what you just shared?
Again, I go to a lot of meetings. I share with my fellows. I try to be of service. I try to be of service is a big part of it. I get a lot of the things that I'm troubled by are a lot less overwhelming than I think they are. The major things I go to, again, this too shall pass one day at a time, next indicated appropriate action, one foot in front of the other. The minor stuff, if let's say I'm struggling with something, and I got to talk to somebody about it. I pick up the phone, I call Donovan, hey, Donovan, what are you doing, brother? And he says, man, I'm so glad you called. I'm struggling with this thing right now. So what'll happen is I'll call somebody to complain, and get some stuff off my chest, and what ends up happening is they are struggling with an issue that they talk to me about. It gets me out of my head. It allows me to be of service to them, and it makes me forget about whatever thing I'm going through. The major stuff, I'll get through just because, regardless of how it turns out, I'll get through it. What Alcoholics Anonymous has given me is the ability to know that I will get through any circumstance that's placed in front of me, as long as I'm staying sober and applying the principles. May not be the way I want it to, but I'll get through it. The other thing that I've learned is a lot of the stuff that I'm really worried about isn't anything at all. It's a minor inconvenience is all it is. And like I said, when I do pick up the phone to call somebody else, most times they've got something. These are guys that I call all the time, Ron. And what will happen is, as soon as I pick up the phone and call Ron is struggling with something, and he'll talk to me. Better yet, Ron will call me when he's struggling with something, and it gets me out of my head when he does that. So that's what happens.
Okay, okay. What message would you like to share with mothers who feel isolated or hopeless in the battle against addiction?
What I would share is, when it was me that was struggling with addiction, getting sober gave me a whole group of people that just wanted to see me get sober, and they helped me get through the thing, and it helped carry me through the difficult times. And I would recommend finding that group yourself. And if you go to a meeting and you don't like who's there, go to another meeting. I assume there's a lot of. I know in LA, I'm in LA. I know there's 3,000 meetings a week here. with Zoom, that increases substantially. There's a meeting I go to some mornings that's based back east. There's another one that people come to the meeting I go to that are in Florida and in Texas and in New York and so we're all over the place. If it's the other person, let them know you're there for them as soon as they're ready. That's what I try to do for my sponsees. That's what I try to do for somebody who wants to get sober. I let them know that we're here for them as soon as they're ready. There's a guy that used to come to this meeting that I went to a lot, and he slipped away, didn't come for a little while. I probably reached out once or twice to say hello. Others did as well. He wasn't ready to come back. When he was ready to come back, he came back because he knew we were there. That's what happens. The idea that there's a place to go when you realize that that's what you need to do. That's been my experience. That I know that a meeting is there. I know that my fellow sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous are there for me. I know that that I can do something to help them. And I know that when I get out of myself, it helps me. They talk about the idea that when you struggle with something, go to a meeting, go make coffee for somebody, go to take commitment. That sounds counterintuitive, like, that's not my problem. It helps get me out of myself. I think what happens is I would recommend figure out a way to get out of yourself. At the beginning, when it's the end of the world, you can't do it anymore, start going to meetings and find a group of people to connect with, find a sponsor to help take these steps. Hope that helps.
Thank you. And then, are there any specific resources, programs, or strategies that you found particularly helpful in dealing with addiction?
Alcoholics Anonymous. The will to want to stop, to the idea that I can't do it anymore, was an important part. Again, I don't know how many, there's a lot of people that we had to concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. I needed to concede to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. I needed to admit the fact of my powerlessness. And when I do that, it makes it easier. That surrender allows me to move forward. It's important to me to understand that it will kill me. It's important for me to understand that if I start drinking and using again, it will kill me, and I don't want to die. I said I have a daughter and two granddaughters. My granddaughters are 9 and 11 years old. I love them so much I can't stand it. I want to be around for them. My elder granddaughter, they live in England. My daughter and grandkids, some live in England. And they have English accents, coolest thing in the world. My elder granddaughter just started high school there. We considered middle school here. It's high school back there. She's getting older. Her little sister is like them. They've always been in school together. Now the little sister is in elementary school alone, and they're getting older, and I want to be there for them. And I love them so much, and they love me, and I want to be around for that. I start drinking, I start getting high again. I got a heart condition. I'll probably be dead soon. All the shit that I tried to do to myself, sorry for cursing, all the stuff I did to myself earlier, I would kill me, and I don't want to die. I want to be there for him. So that's a motivating force for me. But I know in order to do that, I've got to practice these principles in all my affairs. I love the idea of the things that troubled me were like, I don't know how familiar you guys. I assume there's familiarity with this, but admitting my powerlessness over alcohol, the unmanageability of my life is important. Coming to believe the power of granting myself control my understanding is important. Making a decision to my will and my life with care of God as I understand him is important. Making a fearless and thorough moral inventory of ourselves is important. Sharing it with another person is important. Understanding I have character defects and shortcomings and wanting them removed and asking them to be taken away is important. Figuring out who I got to make an amends to is important. Making those amends are important. Continuing to make those amends are important. Praying and meditating. When I'm done with this meeting, I'm going to spend 20 minutes hopefully doing some meditation. My prayer is, what do you want me to do? And thank you and please help. And help another alcoholics. That's why I'm here. Donovan said, can you do this? And the answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. So that's what I do. That's what gets me through it. I've been doing it for 19 years and I had a couple of months and it's been working. and it still works. I got a friend of mine, Dr. George. Dr. George has got 62 years of sobriety. He's got 62 years of sobriety. He still goes to meetings. He still sponsors people. He still does. He's 98 years old. He's an amazing human being. He's an amazing human being. So he's a reminder to me that I need to stay close to this program. Yeah, that.
So thank you for that. And we have a question here from Larissa. Maz Siam's story is a testament to the power of resilience and courage. What was the biggest internal shift that allowed you to not just stay sober, but also thrive and find peace within yourself?
Thank you for the question, Larissa. One of the questions that I had was my value as a human being. I still struggle with it now. What the program teaches me is I'm not a bad person, I'm a sick person. I struggle with that idea, but the idea that I'm not a bad person, my head tells me things, it does it all the time. And what I've learned is I've got to be more consciously aware of things. When I struggle with the idea that I've wasted my life and I've done all these things, what happens is I get to look at my history and realize that I'm not, like I said, I got a daughter. My daughter is a testament to the fact that I'm not a complete loser. I started acting at late in life, and I've got as an actor, I've got a relatively successful career. It doesn't pay the bills, but I've got over 100 credits in different things. I've been on a lot of TV shows. I've been in a lot of short films and independent films. I'm a go-to guy for certain characters. So that's wonderful. I paid my bills for a very long time as a salesperson. I sold cars for a long time, and now I'm doing real estate. My head says I'm trying to do real estate, which means that I'm not doing very well, which is ridiculous because I do sell properties, which means that I see, that's the whole thing. My head will tell me that I'm not. So what I've done is I've gotten to the idea that my self-talk, I'm more aware of my self-talk. I look at how I've lived my life. I look at where I am now, and I understand that I'm not doing too bad. I also understand that I have a series of ways I can live that help me to be a better person. Hopefully that answers it.
Thank you. And now that you are on the side of the fence as an overcomer with addiction, what do you suggest for a family member to do if a person does not want to even consider getting help for the addiction or admit they have an addiction and it's been an issue for a very long time? Is it best measure for the other person just let it be and walk away?
As heartbreaking as the answer to that question is, yes, that's exactly what it is. Until they're ready, there's not a thing you can do. Until they're ready, you can talk until you're blue in the face. It's not going to make any difference because they're not ready. If they do it for you, they're gonna hold it over your head for as long as they can. Look what I did for you, and I'm going to tell you about my bottom. I talk about bottoms a lot. In my sobriety, I talk about bottoms a lot. At the end of when I hit my bottom, it wasn't the end of when I hit my bottom, when I hit a bottom that I could recognize, I had pipes lined up on the table with my plate, and I had my bottle of Absolute and glass with water condensed on the outside for the ice melting. I had pornography on the television in front of me. I had a window over here and the sun coming up, and this bird started to chirp, and I realized I can't do this anymore. I realized I had to realize that I can't do this anymore. I realized that the guys that sign my paychecks, they're not doing this right now. My brothers are who get my checks and pay my bills, they're not doing this right now. My daughter, who I love so much, I can't stand it, she's not doing this right now. I can't do this anymore. I did it for 6 more months. I had to hit that moment. Now, my ex-wife had already thrown me out 2 years before. I'd already been on the verge of losing my job. I already had all these terrible things happen to me. I'd been arrested for DUI. I'd fortunately never been arrested for drugs. I had horrible things happen to me, and I didn't change until I finally, because Alcoholics Anonymous is everywhere, I knew that there was a solution, and I needed to take that solution. It still took me 6 more months. My bottom, my life is over. All I want to do is die. It still took me 6 more months to get sober, but it needed to be me making that decision. I needed to make that decision, and it's got to come from there. Once that decision is made, be there for them. But if they don't admit it, then what can I do? I can't do a thing. I cannot do a thing. I cannot force them to stay sober. I cannot force them to not drink. I cannot force them to not get high. I can't do anything about it. As much as I want to, as much as I know what's best for them, as much as I understand that if they don't do this, they could possibly die, can't do a thing about it. And that's heartbreaking. So yes, turn around and walk away, be there. Let them know that you're there when they're ready, but until they are, have a wonderful life, and hopefully I can help. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
And the drag is, it doesn't feel like it does. The drag feels like, it's like, what are you talking about? How could that possibly be? It'll just kill you, that's all. You gotta let it be. Sorry.
Okay. So what made you want it to act? Was it hard to get to where you are now?
I said that I had a friend of mine who's a writer. I used to be a roadie and a road manager in a rock and roll band when I was 22, 23 years old. And I was surrounded by creativity, and I wanted to be creative. My fingers are too big to play a guitar. So my guitar players told me to learn how to play bass. I never did. But I wanted to be creative. I got a friend of mine that's a writer. I've been writing for a long time, but never did anything with it. I got a friend of mine who's a writer. I said, Pat, teach me how to write. What are you talking about? Teach me how to write. What do you mean? Teach me how to write. He said, fine, come up with characters, come up with a story idea, come up with some stuff. So I did. He and I did. And we wrote a TV show, and the TV show got interest. And what happened when the TV show got interest was, it was lightning striking. And a friend of mine who was a part of this process said, listen, if you want to be a better writer, you should take acting classes. So I took acting classes, and I fell in love with the acting. Now, I'm lucky because I'm a Middle Eastern man, so I speak with an accent, I speak Arabic. So I get to play the bad guy a lot, or I did for a long time. I get to perpetuate the stereotype. Pisses me off, you can do. But because of that, and because of a really wonderful acting coach, I learned how to act. So I'm that stereotype that I'm perpetuating, but I'm also I want to say I'm a good actor, but it feels so egotistical. But I learned from a very, very, very good teacher, and I can help to. Let me put it this way: I can help tell a story, so that allowed me to get some successes. And I love doing it. I love the idea of I was shooting this one short film, and what happened was there's a scene where my son and I, the person playing my son and I, had just dealt with some difficult people, and they left, and we got it. And I told my son to go get some water, and as he's walking away, I just watched him walk away, and I was watching him walk away. I was thinking about my daughter that I love so much, and the crew were 50 feet away filming this thing, and for some reason, them watching me do that made them cry. And my God, I love that so much. It means I had an effect on somebody. And so I'm thrilled when that happens. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So that's why, because I love doing it, and it's so much fun. And I think that I do it well enough to be able to help tell a story. Hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. And I hear so much passion in your voice when you talk about helping others overcome addiction. Now that you are focused on even bigger goals, what is the new story you tell yourself about who you are today? And what are the values that guide you? And what is your mission as you look ahead to the next chapter of your life?
I struggle with my value and my self-worth. I struggle with my age. Donovan and I have known each other for a really long time. Donovan knows those are some of the things I want to do. And it's a question of overcoming the self-doubt that I carry. It's a question of, first of all, not knowing when my time is done and moving forward. So it's just continuing to do the work. I want to, I wrote a TV show. I want to clean it up and maybe start doing something with it. I wrote a play that I'm writing as a screenplay. I want to actually apply myself to it. I want to continue to try to act. I want to do these things that mean I'm still vibrant and still able to contribute and still be able to do the things. From a professional perspective, I still think that I have something to offer. From a sober perspective, I think that my experience and my wisdom in sobriety can help others. And from just a human perspective, I can maybe help make the world a little bit of a better place. I want to continue to do that. I got to be able to, I got to ignore my head that tells me, what are you talking? What do you think you are, man? Shut up. Just shut up. Go take a nap. Relax. What do you mean? I got to ignore that part of my head. And I got to do some stuff going on right now in parts of the world that are going on. I'd like to think that I can maybe help somebody understand that situation a little bit better than maybe they do. I'd like to think that I think what I'm saying with all that is I'd like to think that I still have something to offer. And I got to trust the universe to let me know what that thing is, and I got to have faith that it's there. I got to have faith that there's something that I can do, that that I have some value of some sort, whatever that value is. Maybe even if it's just hanging out and being a presence somewhere. Maybe that's all it is. And maybe that's all it takes. I don't know. But I got things that I want to do. I still want to do. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Anybody? All right. Well, thank you very much for being here with us today. One more time, anybody have any more questions for Mr. Maz? Okay, Larissa?
Yes, Maz, thank you so much for being here. It's a privilege to have you, and hearing your story, your life story, your journey is absolutely inspiring. And what I'm hearing, that the challenges that you came through, they lead you to a decision when you have to stop and have a different quality life for yourself, and you started to trust yourself and feel that you're worth to live and to give others. And this is what I see the passion when you speak about others, how you are available. Like you said that it has to be a place where people know that they will come, and you are the place. You're providing this place, this island, for someone who will be ready to get your wisdom and support. So this is absolutely huge. And this is a great mission in life, to make life better in the universe for other human beings and thinking about others. And I just want to see what
other things? Oh,
I'm sorry. And I just want to ask you, when the moment you had this decision, and when you changed your life completely, transformed your life, so how did it affect other areas of your life? And what meaning did you start to give to life? Like your personal, your your career, your other areas, maybe your health, connections, and with other people?
The first thing that happened is just being sober helped with a lot of things that the health issues that I was struggling with, just the idea that just not drinking and getting high allowed me to have more energy. There's that part of it. There's the idea that as I work these steps, as I live these steps in my life, I was driving down the street. I'm going to give you an example. I was driving down the street. I was going to see a screening of a film. And there was a guy that I tried to change lanes because I tried driving fast because I'm always like in a hurry. And I changed lanes and this guy wouldn't let me in. And so I got behind him and I honked my horn. And he stopped his car and I stopped my car. And he got out of his car, I got out of my car. We were chest to chest on Santa Monica Boulevard. And it happened for about 30 seconds. And my sobriety finally kicked in and said, listen, I'm at fault here. I honked at the guy. I shouldn't have done that. I need to take responsibility for my actions. He ended up turning around, getting his car, driving away, so I wasn't able to make an amends to him. The point I'm making with that one story is that's how I view life in everything. When I'm dealing with a struggle, I get to look at what my part in it is, number one. The idea that whatever's going to, again, going back to this too shall pass and next indicated appropriate action, one foot in front of the other. All I got to do is put my head down and move forward. Put my head down and move forward. Put my head down and move forward. I go to a writer's meeting, the writing sobriety meeting, and what they'll talk about is as writers, they say, all I got to do is write one page at a time. All I got to do is, it's all this one day at a time thing is the thing that gets me through everything. Just this thing right now. If I think about the fact that, as an example, I can never drink again. I am going to die, whatever that is. I'm old and I got heart and all these things. That all I got to do is I got to get through today. I got to get through right now. I just got to get through right now. I got this issue with my heart. They got to do a little surgery thing to it, and they got to do what they got to do. All I got to do is get ready for it, and when it's done, hopefully it'll be okay. That's all I can do. I cannot control anything. All I can do is the work, and whatever happens is going to happen. And that becomes an underlying sense of how I live my life. All I can do is the work. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. The results are out of my hands. I learned I was a sales manager at a car dealership. If I was working a deal with somebody and we didn't make the deal, when the deal was done, we'd say, okay, what could we have done differently? What did we do well? I can do that. I can adapt my style to the experience that I had, but ultimately whatever's going to happen is going to happen. All I can do is the work. That's how I got to live my life right now. Now, it doesn't always, I want things to happen. I still want things to happen. I want to become more successful as an actor. I want to be able to not have to worry about money. I want to do all these things. But all I can do is the next indicated appropriate action. That's all I can do. And that's an underlying reminder that I have throughout my life. We talked about the idea that I sit about being there. You talked about that. I'm a consistent presence in meetings. That helps others. The consistency, the one day at a time. Hopefully that answers the question. There's probably more there, but I just, I went up on my gold rant.
Thank you, Mr. Maz. A question from Heather. What other things do you do to fill your time with so you don't go back to drinking and drugs?
I go to a lot of meetings. I say that again. I go to a lot of meetings. I'm sure to others. I haven't done it for a little while, so I know. So I don't know if I'm going to drink today, but I haven't had a drink for a while, so I expect that I probably won't have it today. I'll go to a meeting. I'm a secretary. I'm a co-secretary of a meeting on Saturday mornings. And as soon as so I go to that. I'm secretary of a meeting on Monday. I have commitments at other meetings, so I go to a lot of meetings. That's one of the things I do. I talk to other sober members of alcoholics, and that's what I do. I'm aware. I'm vigilant about the idea of what a drink or a drug is. There's a saying that says that there's nothing that a drink or a drug would make better today. Any problem that I think I have, I know my experience either with myself or with others, I know will not make better. So I don't do it. I don't have to do it. I don't want to do it. and I spend my time with sober. I have a friend of mine. He's a bass player, and he was playing in a band on Thursday night, and I went and saw him, and it was in a bar. It was a cinema bar down in Culver City, and I went over and I saw him play bass in the bar with a bunch of people that were all drinking and getting, and doing that. I could be there. I'm good doing that because I was with my friend. I was watching him. I don't struggle with it now. In the beginning, when I first got sober, I found it difficult to be in bars. So I didn't go to bars. I went to a lot of meetings because I wanted to remind myself that I needed to stay sober. I did the things that I needed to do. Once I did that, it allowed me to keep going with it. So that answers your question. I'm immersed in Alcoholics Anonymous a lot. It's a constant part of my life. It's a constant awareness that that's what I'm going through. Hopefully that helps, Heather.
Yes. And I believe we have a couple more here. Let me see. What would you recommend for mothers to self-care? Al-Anon meetings, meditation. What have you seen most people have success with?
Al-Anon meetings have worked for for mothers that are struggling with people that they're close to, struggling with addiction. Al-Anon meetings, from what I understand, are very, very, very helpful. I got friends of mine that are sober that were close, and they swear by Al-Anon meetings. They keep trying to get me to go. I don't. That's on me. But it has changed their relationships with other addicts and alcoholics. So I would say Al-Anon meetings are very good. The meditation, I learned how to do transcendental meditation, so I spent a couple times a day, 15 to 20 minutes sitting quietly and just and meditating that way. That helps me. It helps me with my powerlessness over, because I got to remember the fact that I'm powerless not over alcohol and drugs, but I'm powerless over people, places, things, results, situations, and past the future. I'm powerless over all those things, and I need that constant reminder. So yes, Al-Anon meetings. Maybe go to an open AA meeting. You just listen to other people, know that they're not, so you know that you're not the only. I think the thing that comes from a meeting, an Al-Anon meeting, an AA meeting, an NA meeting, CAA meeting, the thing that comes from that is the realization that I'm not alone, that other people are going through what I'm going through. And that helps lighten the burden for somebody like me. The idea that I'm not the only one struggling with this. And I think that's the biggest benefit that I can think of. The idea that I'm not alone. When I sit and talk in a meeting and I watch people nod their heads, it's nice to know that things I say resonate with them. That's the benefit, I think. I think that's the best way to do something like that. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. And then Heather is asking, are there things you do now to fill your time with that you did not do before, like art or write more?
I imagine the answer to that is yes. I do write more. I do go to my meetings. I get a chance to I go to I have the opportunity to go see plays. I spend time doing that. After a little bit of time, it just becomes my life. It just become my life. It's just things that I do. Like I said, I'm older, so I'm semi-retired. So I spend less time doing that. But when I first started getting sober, I spent a lot of time working. I spent a lot of time applying to things that I was doing. I did a lot of in sobriety. I was able to. In sobriety, I finished a play and was able to put it up for performances. I've had the opportunity to when I was drinking and getting high, I'd go on auditions or act, and I was a mess. Now I get to go in and actually be able to do my job. I get to spend time with other alcoholics. I get to go out and hang. I hang out with my brothers once a week. Every week we get together. We call it Sam Sundays. My mother's name. We still get together once a week, just so I get to do that now that I wasn't doing before. I just got a full life. I guess I have a full life. So it fills up just on its own, just by the fact that I'm drinking and using, doing the next indicated appropriate action, put the one foot in the other. Life starts to take over and things start to happen. I just find myself build up with time, So yeah, hopefully that helps.
But thank you for your time. It looks like any other questions?
I have a quick question. Well, Maz, again, it's such a privilege to hear your story. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your personal story, your personal journey. How do you celebrate? Because I'm hearing a lot, just one step at a time. And so, how do you celebrate each step? How do you celebrate your journey to lead yourself and others when you take care of your writing, when you go into the meetings, when you helping others? So how do you celebrate these steps, little steps and big steps?
That's a good question, Larissa. I don't know that it's a celebration. I think the celebration is just the joy of watching others get sober. I think that's what the celebration is. Just when somebody comes in and they say they're a newcomer and everybody applauds, that's a celebration of their newness to the program. Or they've celebrated a milestone of some sort, 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. There's a celebration in that. The rest of it becomes, I think, just a part of the way I live my life now, as opposed to a celebration. It's just how I live my life right now. I'm typically, when a situation happens, I try to figure out what step. As an example, whenever I'm upset with somebody, I have character defects. We talk about character defects and shortcomings. My character defects are pride, ego, jealousy, fear, insecurity, selfishness, self-centeredness, the need for love and approval of others, need to control stuff, my rage, my flakiness, my people-pleasing, my judgmentalness. If I get angry at someone, if I get, are you telling me it's time to stop talking now? Is that what you're doing, Donovan? All these things popping up? Is it time to stop now? Let me know when. When I do those things, if I get mad, what just happened right now? I was a smart ass because Donovan put that thing in, okay? So what I did is I came back snarkily. I was a snarky response. Pride, ego, jealousy. You're cutting me up. How dare you do that to me? Don't you know who I am? Those are my shortcomings they're right there. They're right there. They're immediate. You know what I'm saying? And had I done what I'm supposed to do, had I done what I'm supposed to pause when I did that, I should have seen it, looked at it, acknowledged it was there, then move on. It's not important. I don't know how to do that yet. 19 years and a couple months, I still struggle with that issue. It's immediate with me. What happens is I get better at doing it. I guess that's what it is. The idea that my celebration is, I just celebrate. It's a minor celebration in my mind that I know that that's what I just did. I'm going to make an amends to Donovan. Now, sorry, Donovan, I was a smart ass. I shouldn't have done that. Please forgive me. I'll try not to do it again, which we know that I will. But that's a celebration as well. The idea that I know that I can do something about it. That's important to me. So hopefully that answers the question.
But we have Sir John having a question. In the path of your recovery journey, did you ever come across any spiritual elements which help you with the struggles?
Hi, Sir John. Thank you. The answer to your question is the first 3 steps are: we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that lives had become unmanageable. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, and made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. That teaches me that I am not the most important thing in the universe, that there is something greater than me. What that thing is, I'm not quite sure, but I know that it's not me. That, I guess, is ultimately a spiritual approach to this. The idea that my being of service, that strikes me as being a spiritual approach to this program. That's my goal, is to be of service. That seems spiritual to me. Spirituality runs through this program across the board. as a result of this program, what I try to do is to be a better person. I don't always succeed, but I at least strive for it. And when I'm not, I try to do what I can to do better the next time. That strikes me as being spiritual throughout this thing. I pray and I meditate. My prayer is there's the faith that I am has a prayer. It's called the Fatiha, and it opened and it's just the first it's the first chapter in our holy book, and I recite that to myself every night before I go to bed. But my prayer is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage change the things I can, wisdom know the difference. Please help. What do you want me to do? That's a big one to me. My prayer is, what do you want me to do? What do you want? What? That's a big part of my prayer. And then I meditate a couple times a day. But I don't do those things. I'm not consciously aware that there's a spiritual thing that I'm doing. What I'm doing with that is just something that I've gotten into the habit of doing, and it helps get me through get me through the day. So I guess that is, that's what I use for my spiritual outlet. Yeah, that. Hopefully that answers a lot of. Hopefully that answers a question from me. But anyway, hopefully that answers the question.
Any other question, anybody? So, Mr. Maz, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you.
And Donovan, do you have any further instructions for the group or anything else?
No, that's it. I just really want to say thank you to Maz. Thank you so much. It was really great having you. It was very enjoyable and lots of great information. And thank you for being you, and thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having me, Donovan. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for your patience with me and listening to my babblings. I appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Well, in that case, we shall adjourn. And and then there's a book club at 2. And Mr. Maz, we hope that you will come back and work with us and give us more presentations. Okay.
Thank you, Hong. I appreciate it. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your patience with it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.